So this is the revision 2 utility board, which plugs into the capacitor board in a similar fashion to the regulator boards. It actually has a 50-pin connector on it instead of a 40-pin connector, so you can't interchange them. And as the name might imply, there are all sorts of utility functions on this board. It communicates with the outside world through this connector, which I pointed out earlier goes through the cable to the motherboard, and that's how you talk to it through the motherboard through one of the clock bias boards. And it has its own power supplies. All the power producing components we could are mounted on this bar, which gets attached to the cold plate. And then there are connectors for the front panel. So there are a variety of functions that come out of there, including serial ports, the port to go to the vacuum gauge, which carries switch 24 volts, switch for the shutter to open the shutter, close the shutter, lots of stuff. There's also a relay on here, which is the shutter relay. So we have a solenoid driver here, constant current solenoid driver, which in this case drives the relay. Those signals are also carried to the front panel. And that relay controls the shutter in the camera. 24 volt supply for the vacuum gauge and for the shutter. And then there are a total of 16 RTD reading circuits. So there are 24-bit ADCs which read the resistance of the RTDs and compare that to standard resistors, which are on here somewhere, but I don't see them right now. And return the resistance of the temperature sensors in ohms. 8 of those come out on this connector and go off to the wall board through an additional blue cable. So that's for all of the temperatures which are sensed inside the door. And then you can plug 8 more RTDs in through this J30, and you use that for temperatures that you need to sense inside the box. The final little bit and piece up here is the circuitry for the bog heaters. That is the heaters which warm the return gas lines from the cryo tigers to keep them from frosting. At least in Chile and Australia, they keep them from frosting. And an important jumper here which allows you to select whether your input to the bog heaters is ambient temperature, as sensed by the sensor here on the front panel, or dew point, which is transmitted through a 4 to 20 interface to this 4 to 20 to 10 volt converter. Sits up here on the fan.
Let me get the dew point sensor in there too. Or has that been removed?
Well, it's over on the...
Okay. Dew point sensor right there.
There's the dew point sensor with its local supply, which lives down in the equipment room and communicates with the HE through an RJ45.
Which goes into that.
Which goes into this. And as I say, that's a 4 to 20 milliamp signal, which is converted to an 0 to 10 volt signal by this device. Plugs into the utility board here on J8. That only carries the 0 to 10 volt signal and 24 volts to power this device.
You mention your 2 jumper settings and which one is which?
No, I have no idea.
Using either board?
Yeah, I have no idea which is which. The jumper down on the bottom looks like it's ambient sensor, and the jumper on the top is dew point. That's what it looks like. which you'd have to read the manual to get that. I don't have that in my head, sorry. So that's really a tour of the utility board. There is one other nifty feature of the utility board. If I can slide around over there where